Andre, if someone would have asked you 5 years ago, you'd be premiering a Black indie romance film at Sundance, and what would you have said to them, and how do you feel now in this moment?
Mm, I probably would have said, "From your lips to God's ears." At this moment, I said, "Thank you, Lord."
What makes you say that?
Well, 5 years ago, we were working real hard to try to put this movie together, to raise the financing and get a cast and all of the things. And there were a lot of moments where it felt like it was just not gonna happen.
Mm,
Like a lot of stops and starts. Um, and we almost gave up on it, to tell you the truth, because it just sort of felt like this is never gonna come together.
mm.
And then when it did and we premiered at Sundance, I mean, I can't tell you the sense of relief, that we felt and pride that we felt in having made the movie, having completed it. Um, Also, I think back when we were talking about making it, I knew I really wanted to, when we first started talking about it, part of my motivation was that I really wanted to have a chance to play like a real romantic lead, you
Mhm.
know. Um, and I love those old movies like Love Jones, Brown Sugar, and Love and Basketball, those kinds of movies. And so I thought, man, I would like to see what it feels like to do something like that. Um, so I still can't believe it. I'm still kind of shocked that it all came together and happened, and we got to premiere at Sundance.
That's amazing. You mentioned the trouble with financing, and I don't. I have a little bit of an extensive background in film on the business side, and so I find it really fascinating how the financing part of the industry has changed and it's shifted, and it's harder to get Black films financed and to get a financier. And so, as a producer of this film, fighting to have it made when others said no, how did stepping behind the scenes deepen your connection to the storytelling of talking about it on screen?
That's a good question. I think that, as we were trying to get it financed, there were, as you will know, there are a series of conversations you have, and often people have notes and thoughts about the script and things that they want to change or that they want to question, or even down to casting. It's like, well, can we make this person somebody else or whatever, or some other type of actor? And fortunately, we were able to get exactly, what we wanted, or we had to fight for it, but we got to keep what we wanted in that regard. But as a producer, it made me, I think, double down on trying to be as specific as we could about what the movie is about and about who we want to have in it. Because you realize how fragile, how slippery, and like tenuous it all is. It's like one wrong decision and suddenly like the whole shape of the movie can change.
Mm.
So I think as I go forward with producing, I really want to like recommit myself to supporting the vision of the filmmaker, and not letting financiers or anybody snatch us off track.
Yeah. You I've had the privilege of watching kind of the ebbs and flows of your career and the different projects and the different historical characters, and um I'm curious to know, what were you able to explore in this film that you weren't able to exercise in, let's say, projects like Moonlight or Exhibiting Forgiveness or The Nick?
I think it's like a sense of uncertainty, like in the Nick, Algernon was a character who was complex and had conflicting feelings about things, but also had to present a very like clear vision of like what he wanted, who he is, what his life was going to be, and like just a singular minded kind of thing. And I was excited with Roger because he's a guy who doesn't have access to that clarity.
Yeah.
He's a bit avoidant, he's fearful, he's a little all over the place. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And I wanted a chance to play a character like that. I don't think I hadn't had a chance to do that sort of thing. And also, I've done a lot of period pieces, which I love to do. A lot of, whether it's 42 or The Nick or, Selma, whatever it is. And I was interested in like playing a contemporary character, a guy who's living today, just trying to figure his life out.
Yeah.
So that felt good. And then lastly, I would say it was nice to play a character who wasn't in the middle of like a traumatic situation. You
Yeah.
know, like, whether like many of my characters, the Nick, Selma, again, like they're like, or even exhibiting forgiveness, there's like intense, heightened emotions that are in the air,
Yeah.
which I love, but I was excited about doing something that felt like easier. And I don't mean easy as in like the level of difficulty was easy, but just we were able to do it with like an easefulness, which was cool.
I think about the film and how a lot of times, especially when it comes to Black love and the way that our stories are told, they're either really, really perfect or they're incredibly tragic.
Mhm.
But this film to me sat kind of in this in between where it's messy, but it's tender, it's kind of unfinished, which is essentially how life is. Why was that important for you to tell?
I like that messiness, that middle liminal place. I think that's where life really is. Um, and maybe it's also personal to me, being in my like, I guess we're late in my 30s when we started this journey, and now in my 40s, and myself like trying to figure out relationships and dating and yeah, will I have a family? Will I not? And like all of these big questions, which at 25, I thought, oh, I'll know the answers to that by then. And then suddenly here I am, and I'm like, I don't know the answers, you
You
know?
and I both.
You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes we forget that there are people who are like at this point in their lives who are still trying to figure it out. And that doesn't make them bad people. It don't make them messy or problematic. It just means like they just are trying to work through it. So I wanted this movie to be one that those people could also see themselves in.
I think about it, it's funny because when I was watching it, I as a viewer, you watch the characters and you come up with how you think you're going to feel about them. And then how I felt about Roger's character or Roger in the beginning, in the middle, towards the later half, and then towards the end, I felt this like strange wave of emotions of like, oh, I love him. He's so sweet. And then I don't know if I like him. Is he a villain? I'm not really sure how I feel. But also there's like a quiet ache to his character though. Um, and he's kind of a man that we rarely get to see the complex sides of a black man and how it's portrayed when it comes to love and how we navigate the world. What emotional truths about black masculinity were you hoping to explore?
I really wanted to explore like loneliness, you know, um, and how painful that can be for folks.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's not something that we like, hit people over the head with. But
Mhm.
to me, what I experienced is that part of his procrastination and part of his like inability to work and his let me call Nicole or I'm gonna call Casey or let me go for a bike ride or him distracting himself with different things is a way of trying to cope with the loneliness, the solitude, and all the like negative thoughts that come in when the room is quiet and he's alone in it. You know what I mean? So I feel a lot of tenderness for that character because I really relate to that, and I've been that person who finds it difficult to really sit with those complicated emotions and like let them be there. I also am like, give me something to do. Give me 10 projects and everything will be fine. But at this point in my life, I realize that that's not an answer. You got to just kind of go through it, sit with it. So yeah, that's one thing I really like that about this character.
And I'll ask you the last question and then I'll leave you alone.
Oh.
What I really loved from the beginning of the film is how we got to see like Brooklyn wasn't just a part of the film, it was a character. It to me that's how it felt. In what ways did this project allow you to reconnect with the city in ways maybe your past work hadn't?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I live in Brooklyn in Bed-Stuy, and I love the community here. I love that, like, you walk out on a Sunday. Yeah, this past Sunday, I was walking down Stuyvesant Avenue, and I see like some folks sit on the stoop playing spades, and you see somebody got a bouncy house out, and the little kids are playing in the bouncy house. Or there's so much life around in this neighborhood. There's so much community. People speak to each other still in the way that we did when I was growing up in Alabama. Um, so to me, it gave me a chance to rediscover the community that is Brooklyn, that is Bed-Stuy. Um, it's funny, last weekend on Sunday, I was kind of getting in one of those places where I was like, man, I'm feeling a little lonely.
Mm.
And I said, what if I just tried to like call some folks together? I wonder if anybody would like come. So Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, I sent out a little invite, or no, it was Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Sent out a little invitation to a few folks, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just having a little kickback Sunday. If y'all around, there'll be food and drinks. Come through." I invited like 20 people. About 125 people showed up at my house, and, like, it turned into a old school backyard block like, backyard barbecue, party, and we had the best time, and it was people who I hadn't seen in forever, artists, writers, singers, several professors who were it was just like a beautiful mix of people just enjoying and having a good time, and the one thing everybody said was, "Man, we needed this. We
Mhm.
needed this." And so I think that community piece is one that feels really, really core to me in this movie and also in my life.
I lied, I'm gonna ask you one more question.
Please do.
You something that you had said, in the film, and hopefully I'm not giving away too much, is how important community is and how that's changed.
Mhm.
And I think about how our world has changed now and the way we're navigating the political climate and the race issues, and it's all AI for that matter. Everyone is seeking community in a new way. What do you want people to explore about community through the film?
Hmm, that's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I think like sometimes we can take community for granted, you know? Like this is a small example, but I think about like where I live. There's a street, Tompkins Avenue, right up the road, where there's been this place forever called Bed Vine Brew. There's like a little you know, bar, I guess you could say, where people always gather. Just down the street from there was this reggae bar called Lovers Rock. And to me, when I thought Bed-Stuy, I always thought Bedvine and Lovers Rock. They've been there forever. That's the anchors. Well, in the last couple of months, both of those places have closed.
No.
Yeah, and several new places have opened that don't look anything like Lovers Rock or Bedvine. And I sometimes kick myself for not being more aware, of the vulnerability that some of these businesses are facing because I love those places and maybe took for granted that they would just be there. But actually, as a community member, it's my responsibility to make sure that they stay. So
Mm,
I could have probably been more supportive of both of those businesses than I was. So I think, again, it's a small example, but I think the kind of like message of that is that we have to like not only be a part of a community, but also like do the work to help support the community
mm.
to make sure that it continues to thrive.
I love that. Thank you so much.